All right, we are live and good to go.
Good morning-ish, good afternoon. Hello. Welcome, career exploration campers, to the third quarter of 4 of the career exploration camp presented by Body Armor. Really excited to see you all again. Week 1 is behind us and went quickly. Now we are kicking off week 2, and really excited to introduce Tish Carmona, who we're going to hear from in a little bit. But before we welcome kind of Tish to the stage and get her introducing herself and talking about her topic, did want to do a bit managing expectations, kind of getting us all set for today. So you'll note that we have our SBC ambassadors, Olivia, Liv, and Sydney Griffin, AK Griff. You guys want to say hello?
Hi, everybody.
Hey, guys.
So each of these amazing young women attended last year's career exploration camp. Then they also attended some follow-up programs, and now they're on the payroll. So they're working with us, working for us as SBC ambassadors. They're joining us today to talk through a specific program that I want to kind of detail for you guys, which is our Rising Pro certification program. In advance of that, I did, as I mentioned before, want to just talk through a couple things for today because we've made some subtle changes to the program. And I think you guys all know that if you're not adjusting and changing, you're not trying to get better. So this is July 20th, exciting stuff, day 3 of our program. As a reminder, we need to say thank you. That's the best way to start a presentation, to all of the amazing donors that have allowed us to put on this program and provide it to you all at no cost. So these folks here are members of our advisory board, our board of directors, and the 331 donors that you don't see. Their support has allowed us to do this today. So thank you very much to those individuals. And once again, thank you to our sponsors, most notably Body Armor, who is the presenting sponsor for this event. So thank you very much, Body Armor. Don Rouse from Body Armor, who is our client and a really great man, great supporter of our organization, will be joining us on Thursdays, all team meetings. So you can say thank you to him via chat at that time as well. So as I mentioned, Tish is going to be presenting to us here shortly. And then the flow for today is going to be similar to last week. So we're going to have Tish's presentation that takes us up until 1 p.m. And then we're going to have these 8 pathway roundtables. So we've significantly downshifted from the 19 pathway roundtables last week to 8. And that's because these seem to be the topics that are most interesting to you. And we want to make sure that we have people there to support you. So we were spread a little bit thin last week. We want to kind of consolidate, refine, and these are going to be the 8. And that you can pick from these 8 pathway roundtables. So you don't need to reference your previous assignment. Maybe you've been keeping track and you went to esports and sports team operations last week and you want to check out sports marketing and sales and stats and analytics this week. That's great. You can check out one of those today and the other one on Thursday. And then final reminder on that, instead of 2 separate 30-minute sessions, that's just going to be one 50-minute session that's going to start directly at 1:10 p.m. and take us up until time runs out at 2 p.m. Eastern. Cool? So you're attending this program, you're on the third quarter, we're already talking about the end of the program, right? And you're like, all right, this is cool. These people are having a good time. I'm learning a lot, but like, what's next for me? What do I do after this? And this is the life cycle of campers for the career exploration camp. So you've taken step 1 of the career exploration camp. What I want to talk to you about today is step 2, which is the Rising Pro certification program. And hopefully that's the second step of many steps that include college, that include mentorship, okay? So this is the Rising Pro certification program that Sydney and Olivia are going to talk about their experience a little bit. And it's taking the next steps and getting professional reps is how we're looking at this program. Interested? I think you are. We'll tell you some more. So I want to reintroduce Sydney and Olivia. So Sydney, we'll start with you. You came to last year's camp. You're on the payroll now, but in between that, you're a part of the Rising Pro certification program. Can you talk about what that program was and then how you benefited from it?
Yeah, so last year, I was where you all were. I'm sitting at home and I was just taking in a lot of information. But around November, I got an email saying, we want you to join the Rising Pro certification program. And I was like, what is this? Well, basically, it's this 8-week project that we did, and you got to do real hands-on experience looking at social media channels for sports entities. So my group did the Fiesta Bowl, which is a college end of the season bowl game. And so we looked at their Twitter, their Instagram, any TikToks that were related to them. And we basically logged and analyzed every single post they did throughout that 8-week process. And then we create a SWOT analysis, which does the strengths, the weaknesses, opportunities of improvement, and one more category, like
Threats. Threats.
Oh, threats. So we did a SWOT analysis, and we created this big presentation showcasing all of that. And then we presented to a panel of judges, and we competed with all the other teams, which included Olivia.
Cool. And then, Olivia, can you share, just maybe add to that about your own personal experience and maybe what you gained from that?
Yeah, so Sydney described that perfectly. We just made a big presentation after tracking some social media of these big sports organizations, and we presented it in front of industry pros who judged us and then determined a winner, a team winner, because it was a group project. And I'm very lucky. My partner, Ethan Rand, and I won. Shout out, Ethan, if you're here. And then later, I used this certification to it qualified me to apply for a scholarship, which I'm so thankful to have won. And it's going to help me with my college tuition and payments.
Awesome, and very, very proud of both of you. So this isn't the last stop on your destination or your journey with sports biz camps. This is the first, and we're going to create the second step of the certification program. Maybe the third step is you on the payroll as an SBC ambassador, ongoing programming, and we want to be there to support you in making a college decision and hopefully helping you fund some of college through those scholarships that we've identified. And then once you're in college, internships, mentorship, whatever, like that's our role, is to help support you all on this journey from awareness of career opportunities in sports to hopefully access those career opportunities in sports. So really, really proud of Olivia and Sydney for taking those steps. And we're talking about this today before we get too far into the week, because we want you all to be a part of the 2020 program, obviously. And more information will be coming on that as well. But thank you again, Olivia and Sydney, for sharing. Very, very proud of you both, and very, very thankful that you made the decision to attend last year and that you're part of the team. For any student that has any questions, you can always reach out to Lana Trucy regarding the Rising Pros program, and you'll have more information next Thursday. And also, we're hosting an end of program award ceremony next Tuesday. So additional information forthcoming. We also have your information now, and we're not going to lose it. So if you don't reach out to us, we're going to reach out to you. Okay? So I kind of want to shift gears here a bit, and then and I want to start to involve Tish. So as a reminder, there was a collaborative kind of case-like consulting competition. This was the actual role that our students played in the Rising Pros program. These were their clients. So we picked those 6 clients. We're actually working on specific clients for this year. So you're at the NFL, and kind of walk us through. This is an example of the workshop that the students had to go through in advance.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gavin Broom with Team Mystics.
That's an example of an actual presentation that was delivered. And I think one thing that wasn't noted is the students that were participating in this program, they had professional supervisors supporting them throughout the program. So it wasn't Sydney by herself or Sydney with her teammates, but Sydney was supported by Kevin, supported by Caroline. And they were there kind of being that guiding hand throughout. So that's also a great opportunity to create a mentorship relationship with those students, which is really, really valuable. Okay. So as we introduce Tish, I want to leave you guys with a quote, and then we're going to introduce Tish and let her take it away. But we talked about curiosity being the act of exploration and taking a big step forward. And I think this particular quote, as we start to work into week 2 of the Career Exploration Camp, was very appropriate. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Tish Carmona to the main stage. Let's all give her some love. Let's get her some hearts via the emojis here. Boom. There you go, Tish.
Hey, everyone. How's it going?
So Tish, would love to start, talk about what you do currently with the MBA and the WNBA. And as you know, we've discussed, this program is all about pathways. So students in high school, they're intrigued by what you do. What was the pathway that you took to that role?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you all for having me, and just kudos to all of you who are on this call today. I think it's so exciting, in the middle of summer, that so many of you wanted to join this and be really, taking that initiative into building your career. This is something that I never would have imagined was possible in high school. And I'll tell you a little bit about how, I got into where I am today. But I'll just start off by talking about what I do today. So I am NBA and WNBA strategic communications writer. And so with that, I am part of the overall communications department at the NBA. Now, when I said that I wanted to major in communications as, a senior in high school, so many of my friends were making fun of me. They're like, what do you even do with a communications degree? And I think to some extent, there's still a lot of, kind of like misconceptions about PR or just about communications in general. And so, going into college, I finally figured out what it was that I wanted to do. And that was the public relations sector of general communications. But now I do a lot of executive communications and internal messaging. And so a lot of that is just coming up with the best words for whatever a statement or a quote or an op-ed or just a lot of anything with like words on it, basically, as I say, is what I do. A lot of editing and just overall kind of helping out with our general communications functions. I was just at WNBA All-Star helping on the ground with our media there. And so, just kind of really being part of the action is always fun. Didn't get to go to the finals this year, but hopefully I'll be back next year. And it's been a really exciting time. I joined the league in December of 2018. So we're coming up on 3 years now, which is just crazy to say. But before that, I was at the Washington football team handling their corporate communications. So that was my first job out of college. And so I'll be completely honest. I didn't know that I was going to work in sports. Like when I was a junior in high school, I was talking to my Spanish teacher and she told me that I might be good at PR. And like, I had no idea what that was and started just Googling it. And I was a huge Yankees fan growing up. I was born in New York, and my dad and I just always used to watch games together. So I was like, oh, I think the Yankees have a PR department. I'm going to grow up and do PR for the Yankees. And that was just like my, random goal. I'm very much a goal-oriented person, but once I have my goal set and I have my like eyes on the prize, basically, like I can achieve it. And I think that's so important for all of you to be able to do, is do that goal setting. And even if you take some detours along the way, at least you have something that you can like aspire to and just kind of imagine yourself in that role. And so, it definitely got me to where I am today. So I went into the University of Maryland and knew I wanted to study communications, but I took a ton of different internships along the way. I did, a startup in tech. I was doing PR for them. I was doing communications for the division of IT at Maryland, just a ton of different things. But I knew I loved writing and I knew I loved comms, but I didn't find what I truly enjoyed doing until I started working for Maryland Athletics in their media relations department. So that for me, my junior year, was just a total game changer. I was working for their volleyball team, and I had played volleyball growing up. So that was like a connector for me because I had no experience in sports before. So they just, they saw I played volleyball. They knew I knew the game. So I was just helping out for the volleyball games. Then I got into basketball and lacrosse in the spring, and then ended up being, football in the fall. So it was just an all around amazing experience there. And from that was like my first opportunity, and just had someone take a chance on me to get my foot in the door in the sports realm. And then from there, I got an internship with the Washington football team. And then after that, I got an internship in New York, which is where I ended up networking with someone who worked at the NBA, which is how I ended up here after all. But then I worked game days in the fall of my senior year, and then they chose to bring me on full time after that. So, talking about internships, so important. And obviously you all have so much time, but just, be thinking about that is a pathway that is very common. And so that's how it ended up happening for me. And I was really fortunate to work for the team for, almost 2 years, and then got an email saying that there was my current job opportunity open. And that's when I made the move up to New York and to the NBA, and now have expanded my role to include the WNBA. So that's just a little bit about my background, and I'm sure I can go into detail in one place or another, but that's the overall scope.
Could I ask a couple follow-up questions?
Of course.
Just pull out some salient points. And this is my favorite part about what my role is with the organization, is I get to learn about career pathways from individuals such as yourself, and kind of pull out those insights. You were hustling. and I mean, and don't take offense, but you kind of didn't know what you were doing, right? Like,
No idea. That's what I was saying. I was like, if I had this kind of thing, like if I had this programming, I would have been so much better off. I literally was just like shot in the dark. I'm like, oh, I'll do PR for the Yankees. And like, I still I question it every day. I'm like, how did I end up here?
Well, I guess I'm more like asking a question. Well, you ended up there because obviously you're really intelligent and you work hard and you treat people with respect and all those things. And just in the limited interactions I've had with you, I know that's the case. But like, how did you have the confidence to do things when you didn't really know what you were doing? And what motivated you to do? And how can our students feel the same way they're still trying to figure out what they want to do?
Oh gosh, you know what? It's so hard to even put my finger on it. I mean, I will say I used to be a very shy kid. I did not like to talk to people at all. I kept to myself a lot. And then I swear one day I was just like, I'm so done being shy. I just want to be outgoing and just, do whatever I want. Like ended up being now in the communications, which is like the most outgoing field that you can literally be in. And so I think a lot of it just takes that personal, like, just knowing what you want and like being, okay, confidence like comes in a lot of different ways. And I think that, if you play sports, you build confidence. If you have like a supportive friend group, that builds confidence. It's not just about like having a goal in mind or having the skill set. It's about like really just knowing who you are and what you want and just kind of going for it. Because honestly, there's so many different people who want to work in sports or just have like reach any type of career, but the people who will find those opportunities are the ones who just move confidently. And even if you get things wrong, like no one expects you to ever like always have things right. And I've definitely made missteps along the way, but if you kind of just know, you accept that things might not always work out the way that they're supposed to, but just moving forward and keep on going. Because seriously, like if you just stay, if you're standing still, there's that phrase where it's like, you're basically moving backwards if you're not like accelerating forward. So just know that there's opportunities out there for you and just to keep, stay true to yourself and to, it sounds like you're like, how do you build confidence? Just be confident. But, it really is just like, know your worth and know what you bring to the table.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could thank you very much for that, because it really is impressive how you've been able to parallel all that kind of adventure, if you will, into a full-time career. And I'm sure you're not going to stop, right? Right now you're in this role, but who knows what happens in the future, and you don't seem scared of the future of trying new things. I think one thing that maybe we can kind of draw upon helping our students and drawing some parallels with respect to sports is like, it's all a competition. Whether you're trying to get in the sports industry or any other industry, it's competitive.
Yeah.
When we compete, like we don't go up to bat like thinking about what happens if we strike out and that we suck if we strike out. Like that's not, you go up like, I'm ready to compete. I want to get a hit. I want to make this shot. I want to get this pin, whatever, right? We don't think about all the reasons it won't work. But for some reason, I think sometimes when we get into new experiences off the playing surface, that causes paralysis or fear of failure or whatever. But if we can just take that competitive mindset from the field or from the court into your career and look at it as a way to try something, give it your best and learn and grow from it, I think that can hopefully get a lot of people from that standstill towards progress.
Definitely. And I think we talked about this in a conversation before too, just about that competitive nature of the industry and how, even though it is a competition, just remembering to, be kind. And so many people in the sports industry know each other and want to uplift each other. And they're, I've found that it's been a lot more beneficial to me to just, be kind to everyone and, share opportunities with others. And, because you never know who's going to end up getting the job. And it is such a competitive field, but I believe that the best people always end up getting the jobs that are meant for them. And if it doesn't work out for you and like specifically, then another thing will come along that's even better than what you thought it could have been. So I strongly encourage you not to, kind of tear others down along the way. It's all about bringing each other up. And again, like, it really does feel like a team mentality when you're working in the sports industry because, it's very cliche, but like it really is true that we're all in it together. And so just remember that when you're trying to navigate your career and, because you never know who might end up like working somewhere that you want to work down the line. And, maybe had you not like pushed them down when you were trying to get like vying for an internship or something like that, like they might be able to help you in the future. So you just never know. Just have positive interactions with everyone you can.
Thank you, Tish. So I want to kind of introduce the theme for your conversation today and give a bit of context. So I was made aware of Tish because she's like blowing up the internet with how she's been using her social media to support aspiring sports industry professionals. Obviously that's a cause close to our hearts. We created a nonprofit to do the same. So when I see someone that's having success professionally and also giving back and using their platform to do that, clearly that's someone we want to talk to. So that's how we were initially connected to Tish, because she kind of was making waves through how she was using her TikTok and Twitter. So Tish, the theme for your presentation is the sports world is your oyster, how to leverage what's at your fingertips to advance your career. So can you talk a bit about what inspired you to use your platform as the way you did, and then kind of start to draw that back to the lesson we want to impart upon to our students today?
Definitely. So I had just spent, as most of us did in the pandemic, spent many hours on TikTok. And through all my scrolling, I never saw someone who was talking about working in the sports industry. And, you always see the teams and leagues uploading content, but you don't really see a lot of the people behind the scenes talking about it. And I think that there is a lot of information out there that needs to be shared about the sports industry and just how we can all get, work in the sports industry and what opportunities there are. And so I always loved, doing these kinds of speaking engagements and having one-on-one calls with students who went to Maryland, or just, anyone who reaches out on LinkedIn. In the past, I was really big on being able to just have those conversations, because that's how I got to where I am too. I resourced, all this information from different professionals that I would network with. And most of the time I just reach out to them on LinkedIn, and, you learn so much from those calls. And especially if you follow up, those become valuable resources to you. But I realized that I could talk to so many more people at once if I started a TikTok. And so that's when I was in quarantine. I was in the WNBA bubble at the time. So I had a week where I was just in a hotel room, and I was like, what can I do besides just sitting here and working? I can, let me start making content on TikTok. And so I just uploaded this one video talking about hey, if you want to work in the sports industry, follow me, I'm going to share some tips, blah, blah, blah. And it blew up way more than I thought. I woke up with 15,000 followers. I was just oh God, what did I just do? But I had to tell my bosses and everything. I was in case you see me. But it was just really awesome, because I knew that there definitely were so many people who wanted to work in the sports industry out there, and it was just an underserved population on TikTok, I felt. And so now I've seen so many more people who have popped up and create the same kind of content. I know there's some people I think who work for the Bucks, that they work in their ticketing office or something like that, and they create content, and just a ton of different people who now are seeing that that's an opportunity. And actually, we just the NBA just joined TikTok Resumes, which is something they just launched about a week or two ago. And it's all about getting jobs directly. They have a micro site on TikTok now where you can apply for different positions. So the NBA has 20 positions listed on TikTok now. And because I had been involved in the space and I was connected with our talent acquisitions team at the NBA in our HR system and everything, they gave me advice for what I can share on TikTok and all this kind of stuff. So it ended up being something that I kind of sparked some innovation at the NBA, which was really exciting, because, I think that it's hard to make waves in leagues such as, the NBA. And it was just cool to feel like I was a part of something there that is really helping students and interacting with them in the way that they want to be reached these days. So that was kind of my inspiration behind it. And we've actually I posted a couple different TikToks for job opportunities, and we actually ended up hiring some people who we found from TikTok. So it's just been amazing to see. So really excited about all of that.
I love it. Anytime that we can, transition from boredom to productivity, not just productivity, but Tish, but using your platform to help other people and to give back, that feels good. You can tell you're proud of it. And then also you made an impact to your organization and have become kind of a change agent in that sense too, all because you had this really powerful thing at your fingertips and you happen to also be bored. But it doesn't matter. You decided to use it for productive purposes. And I think that can be applauded. Let's give her some applause.
Actually, I love all these emojis. They're such confidence boosts.
So can we transition to what our students can take away from that?
Yes.
So, you heard about like the journey that we want our students to take, and we've got students here today, but how can you transition your experience using what was at your fingertips to advance your career and help people and help the organization? How can our students do the same?
Definitely. Well, I mean, I think that social media is such a powerful tool, and lucky for you all, you literally grew up with it. And I think that you have the upper hand when it comes to how to use, social media and just how to make an impact on the sports industry overall with the knowledge that you have. And I think, there's so much that you can do if you just get creative. I know that my high school, like if you're looking for something to do, like through social media in high school, like something that came up to me, it was like, I know that my high school's basketball team, they have a Twitter. So it's like, even if it's something as simple as like wanting to like do live tweets from the game, or like just go up and like ask the coach, like, hey, is anyone doing this? Like, I would love to, help live tweet the games. And, it takes a level of trust as well as to know that they won't, that you won't tweet anything, inappropriate. But I think that as long as you have a good head on your shoulders and you build that trust with that coach or something like that, then they'll take a chance. They know that, there's, not only the athletes on the court that want to, pursue their passion and pursue their goals, but the ones who are off the court who want to pursue a career in sports. And so that's one of those things that you could do. You can also start like maybe like a sports club at your school if you don't already have one, that focuses more on like the business side of things, or, writing up articles, or, making blog posts. I think that there's so much that you can do just to build like an online portfolio, or even just like a Twitter fan page of something, just getting involved in the space. And something else that's really huge that I didn't really think about that much either when I was in high school is, engaging in social media in, like we're saying, a productive way, but not only that you are creating content, and if content creation isn't something that you want to do, you don't necessarily need to be tweeting all the time. I don't tweet all the time either, but if you follow people who are in the sports space, and in like a role that you see yourself being in, like follow them, or follow different sport business the publication. So like a Sports Business Journal, or Front Office Sports, or something like that, Sport Techie, all these different publications that you can follow on Twitter, you can subscribe to, just getting that news and getting that information while you're in high school now. Like, you're just going to have such a like broad, understanding of the industry that it's really going to help you and get you ahead of anything. I mean, like I said before, I didn't really know I wanted to work in sports. So it took me a while to even get up to speed with who is working in the sports industry and who are the people I need to follow. I know Forbes always has their, sports section of the 30 under 30 winners, or, whatever other awards that there are out there, and following those people and just seeing what they're doing, seeing how they got to where they are. And usually they have little write-ups on them as well. And so there's so much that you can do just to learn. And like, like this panel and title kind of is, the sports world really is your oyster, and like all this information is at your fingertips. So there's so much that you can do. And if you want like something to show for the work that you are accumulating at this time, I would think that social media is one of the best places to do it. With blogs, or with TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, anything that you have at your disposal. Just use it to the best of your ability. And also just being aware of, the common slip ups with social media as well, and just making sure that you're, putting out a positive image overall.
That's really awesome stuff, Tish. I want to bring a question to the stage, and you talked about it a little bit. This question's from Nicole.
Oh, yeah.
So how did the relationships you built help you get into the sports world? So obviously your internships, you were able, how did you build relationships with the people with whom you were working? And then maybe an example or two of how that helped you get to that next spot.
Definitely. I mean, relationships truly are everything. And if it doesn't even have to be one of those relationships where it's purely transactional, where it's like, hey, do you have any opportunities for me? And like, then I'll apply, put in a good word for me. It's just getting like a solid group of people to support you, and just people that you could talk to about anything going on in the industry. Like, I have a ton of friends who work in sports that we just bounce ideas off each other all the time, and that's super helpful as well. So that is a really great way to use those relationships, just being able to like have a community, but also with, advancing your career. Like I said, how I first, found out about the job at the NBA was that I went to a Women in Sports and Events. It's called WISE. They had a networking event in New York during my internship with Lagardère Sports and Entertainment. And I got that internship by just doing this. Side note, take advantage of any opportunity out there. I signed up for a January New York City trip to a few different agencies. It was like PR and communications based. And I honestly just wanted to go to New York because I love New York. So I was like, oh, we'll go to New York, see these different places. But one of the places that we visited was the place that I got my internship with. So, after I went to that event, I followed up with the people who organized it. I followed up with the company and was, asking about internships and any opportunities. And that's how I found out. So just being proactive in the people that you meet, just being able to, know the questions to ask, or just being eager to help anyway, just send them a note and be like, hey, I really appreciated X, Y, and Z. Would love to stay in touch. If you have any opportunities, please contact me, that kind of thing. Just always putting yourself out there is really helpful. But I did that program. I got the internship, and then at that internship, someone had an extra ticket to that networking event. So I was like, sure, I'll go. And I was the only student there. I didn't realize it, but it was all for professionals. And I showed up and I was just like, oh, okay, I got look like I belong here. But I ended up just like going and talking to anyone I could. And there was someone who was there who was wearing an NBA name tag. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. Let me talk to her. And she worked in finance. And so I knew that wasn't something I wanted to do. So I just networked with her. She was really sweet. And we just had a really great conversation, told her what I was interested in. She's like, oh, let me connect you to this person. And so I got connected to someone who works in our diversity and inclusion sector at the NBA. Her name is Melissa Palarea, and she's just amazing. I ended up getting lunch with her at the NBA. And then she introduced me to the woman who runs our business communications at the NBA, who's still here now. Her name is Amanda Thorne George. And I had literally a 15-minute conversation with Amanda. And to this day, it's funny because I see her in the office and I see how busy she is. I'm like, I have no idea how I even got 15 minutes on her calendar, but thank God I did, because I talked to her and she was like, okay, let me put you on this listserv of any opportunities that come my way. So she just had her personal email contacts where if a job opportunity was sent to her, if there was a job opportunity at the NBA, she would just send it out to these people that were on her listserv. And it was July, I was at training camp for the Washington football team, and it was of 2018. And then I got an email from her that my current position was open. And I was like, I had kept in touch with her. I was like, hey, I think eventually I would love to work at the NBA. Keep me in mind for these future opportunities. And it just, kind of worked out that she did. And so because of that relationship, I emailed her and was like, hey, I just applied for this online. Here's my resume. And she's like, perfect. I'm going to go drop it off on the hiring manager's desk. So little things like that, you just never know the relationships that you'll build with people and where they'll get you. And so much of that story, I really do have to explain every part of it. And it sounds so stupid and all the minutia, but it's just, I think that it's just an example of how spontaneous this industry can be. And you never know who can lead you to where you're going to be and what opportunities will be in your path. So just take advantage of as much as you can, and good things can happen.
There's 1,000 things I want to unpack in that story. The one way I think that, and Tish explains her story, and I try to put metaphors on it, but every time Tish was getting an internship in excelling, then she was getting another internship in excelling. One way to think of it was she's stacking her chips, right? So if you start out and there's you have no chips at your table, but you want to get in the game, you get experience with your chips, but then you get experience working for people that can vouch for Tish and say, Tish is good. She's a good person. She's a good worker. She knows what she's doing. And those people are called references. So when you go apply for those other jobs, the first thing we do is GPA, cool. Where you go to college? Maryland's a great school. Awesome. What you study? Whatever. Who have you worked for? What have you done? Yeah. And if I see a name on there that I know, or a name that I trust, or if I don't even know them, but I pick up the phone and call them and they say, Tish is the best, that is invaluable, right? So she gave herself this opportunity. She did well. And then she's starting to stack chips. And then all of a sudden, momentum starts to work, and you're working downhill because you're getting experience, meeting more people. Those people are introducing you to more experiences where you can meet more people. Mm-hmm. And then you start stacking your chips. And then you find yourself on a listserv from a very important person at the NBA. And because you did the right things throughout, I mean, I like to say, like the way you talk about it, Tish, it's like, oh, it's kind of easy. I know it's easy, and I know that wasn't the case. There's a lot of work and a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a process. That was like you're not an overnight sensation, nor is anyone. You were putting yourself out there, making yourself uncomfortable, working really hard, having success, treating people with respect, and then all of a sudden that starts to snowball, right?
Absolutely. And I'd be totally remiss to mention if I didn't mention that my professors in college really did help me so much. I took this one class that I will forever be grateful for. It was literally called like PR boot camp, and most students either like quit before the semester was over or they like weren't able to pass the class. It was notoriously a difficult class, but it was like I learned grammar. I thought I knew how to speak and how to write before that, and I was so wrong. It was just the hardest thing, and you know the amount of all-nighters that I pulled during that class. But it truly paid off because I mean, my job title is literally like strategic communications writer, and had I not really tried hard in that class, I ended up being a TA for that class, a teaching assistant for that class after. Had I not done all that, I really don't think I would be where I am today either. So while it's like, yes, get these experiences, like do pay attention in your courses and do listen to your professors. Even though sometimes, there were some classes where I was like, okay, this is a little silly, like, because sometimes things are out of date and that's just the way that is. But, just make sure that you're for the technical things and for the things that will, be the foundational blocks of your career. It's really important to like pay attention to those classes and do a good job, because that's what set me apart as well, was my writing skills, which is, why I really got the job at the Washington football team. And then, obviously how I got my job today. There was a writing test coming into the NBA. So just, being able to do well on those, that was really important. But it was because of the classes that I took at Maryland that prepared me for that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I love the story, and it's a story for so many people, not just our industry, but every industry. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of connecting the dots, but it's a lot of putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and embracing that uncomfortability. And that's why I think it's so funny when you talked about at the beginning, Tish, that you're a shy person. Like no part of your story sounds like you're shy. You're like, oh, you have an NBA sticker. I'll go talk to you.
Right. No, I just had to completely come out of my shell. So that's, definitely had a 180.
I wanted to welcome Liv back. I think Liv had a question for you, Tish.
Awesome.
What is the most challenging part of your current role? And then how do you stay like calm and cool enough to carry on within your position?
Oh gosh, I think, it's kind of a hard question that I haven't thought about in a while. There's a lot of different, things and just aspects of my job that can be difficult at times. I would say probably just being able to manage the expectations from a lot of different, people that rely on what I do. Also just a lot of it is being able to like grasp the voice of the organization. That's something that I had to learn coming into this role. What I do is kind of like being able to write in the style of the NBA. So there's like whatever company you go to, it'll have its own brand voice and brand, just like persona, I guess. And so being able to like understand that from an NBA perspective, it was much different from the Washington football team and much different than anything I'd done in the past. So that was definitely a challenging thing, especially when that's just like the main focus of my job. So that's the most difficult. And then what was the second part of your question?
How do you stay like calm and relax under pressure so you continue to enjoy your job? Yeah,
definitely. I think that honestly, this year has been a revelation for me. I won't lie. Nothing has seemed more important than focusing on health and, family and just your well-being. And so I think a lot of things got put into perspective this year. But even in college, I think I was very type A growing up. I grew up playing the violin actually. And it was always like this competition and, competing for all state and, getting first chair and whatever. And, your school orchestra. And it's like, I definitely was hard on myself growing up. I was a perfectionist and like violinists usually are, but I let it get to me a lot. And I again, I was just kind of like done with being stressed out and letting things affect me so much. And I was also a very much grade oriented person where I was like, I need to get straight A's. I need to get and like in college, that's just not possible. Actually, the only class that I got a B in, which was my lowest grade in college, was the sport communication class, which I always laugh at this point. I was like, I don't know how that happened, but I was like, here I am. So like, it really, I just like learned that things don't matter as much as, being a good person, doing good things, and just like, making sure that you're taking care of yourself. I mean, work can be stressful, life can be stressful, but just keeping everything in perspective and, remembering why you're doing the thing that you're doing and remembering the good times when you're going through the trenches. There's always going to be adversity that you're facing, but just remembering to, stay afloat and do what you need to do to take care of yourself. And if there's always ways that you can ask for help too, I think that's really huge. Like if I am drowning with work, like I'm very fortunate to have really supportive managers and bosses that, I can like voice that to, that they'll, be really receptive. They're like, hey, let me help out with this, or maybe ask this person for help or whatever. So I feel like I'm in such a good team right now that it doesn't ever get to the point where I feel like I'm just like completely head underwater and can't manage. But also I have done a better job as I've grown up about not letting the little things get to me or not getting too stressed out over time, which is a really, really valuable tool for anyone. Just try to, stay afloat and, just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Olivia. I wanted to ask a follow-up question actually related to that before we bring another student up. Feedback. Mm-hmm. So, and maybe your story a little bit about being a violinist maybe helped a little bit, but Tish, like you write things that people probably rip up every single day.
Yeah.
How do you handle that? And I struggle with that as a professor, even now as a manager, like basically telling people like, this is what you did wrong. Like,
see,
how do you handle that feedback and not get upset or feel less than or yell back or whatever? Just walk through that feedback loop.
Yeah, that's so funny. That's probably what I should have said was the hardest part of my job. But I think it's just because I tuned it out at this point that I'm like, I know that's part of my job and it's hard and it sucks, but it's like, it is what it is. And I think that's also a reason why I'm like able to let things roll off my back a little bit more, because I know that edits are just part of the process and it's, making you better or helping you find the voice of the NBA a little bit better, that kind of thing. So it's definitely tough. And like I said, I was a perfectionist, so it still does get to me when I don't nail something exactly the way I wanted to, or or if someone comes back with significant edits, but that's just the nature of what I do. So that's also been a huge learning curve, is just learning that whatever I do, there's going to be someone who like has some edits, but on the flip side, I do get an opportunity to edit other people's work. So like, it's a little bit of a balance. I think that just the general understanding is that whoever writes the first draft, it's going to get ripped up, but as long as you're the one editing it, then you're in a good space. But, I think that, it still is a very valuable thing to have that first draft on paper, just get your thoughts out. And it's always easier to edit than it is to write the first draft. So for anyone who is a writer, do not be discouraged if people are editing you, pay attention to the edits. But also just like know that it's not a knock on your personal character. It is literally just they're trying to fit it into whatever the voice of whatever you're writing for is, or just make it the best it can be. And there's always room for improvement. Everyone gets edits, literally from the top down. Even I would edit things that my boss would write in the past, and so really it's a two-way street.
Yeah, we had a really great quote from a speaker in a past event. The quote was, "Feedback is a gift." Mm-hmm. And I think looking at that, like when someone gives you feedback, they're trying to help you improve, or like maybe make sure you don't get in trouble, right? Or help you grow. Yes. And I know sometimes when you're in the trenches, particularly when you spend as much time writing things as you probably do, Tish, in a high stress environment, in the wubble, for instance, mm-hmm. It's probably hard to interpret that way. But that is people caring and trying to give you something.
Exactly.
Welcomed Griff back. Sydney had a question for you as well, Tish.
Awesome.
Y'all already touched on this a bit, but I just wanted to know, like, what does the average week look like for you, and like who do you typically interact with on like a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so kind of every week does change a little bit. I have my manager, and we, communicate all the time, but I now that I work for the NBA and the WNBA, I have the whole different like subset of people that I work with. So on the WNBA side, there's 3 people who run communications full time. They are amazing at what they do. I love working with them. And from that too, I mean, the WNBA in general is a really lean team. And so I end up interacting with almost everyone at the WNBA at one point or another, because some of what I have to do involves like getting information from different people within different like sectors. So I'll be talking to people in marketing, or maybe in, data analytics, or just any, different part of the company to, craft some quote or this or that, like whatever it may be, whatever the written thing is. Sometimes I need to pull from different parts of the organization. So I really do get a chance to work with a lot of people across the league. But also there's, we have these employee resource teams where you get to, we have a couple different ones. Like we have our Pride ERT, we have our Dream in Color ERT, we have our Conexión NBA, which is like NBA connection, just in like Spanish. That's like what I'm part of. I'm half Colombian, so that's just like really cool for me to be able to be a part of that. So we get to interact with a lot of people across the department and across the company, and from that, I kind of get an opportunity to ask them questions. If there's something that comes up that I need help with, like that's a really helpful way to just make these genuine connections rather than just like emailing them out of the blue. But also it just adds to like just being able to have fluidity throughout the company. Having people know each other is super important. So my job really, I do end up communicating with a lot of different people. And our communications department at the NBA is like, 40 people deep or so. And so we have all these different business functions, I guess, that have communication teams, like our G League, 2K League, WNBA, as I mentioned, but our international communications, business, marketing, there's social responsibility and diversity and inclusion. There's so many different people. And so I end up working with kind of all of them. But week to week, just like responsibilities, like I said, like I would have to like literally look at my calendar to like say like what I had to write. But, like one day it might be writing like a program letter for the finals, or another day it might be helping, if something, comes up, or, unfortunately part of the job is like drafting statements, like if someone like influential or like just important in the NBA has passed away, like, what is the statement from the NBA going to say, or that kind of thing. And like there's always, those people who work on that and work with the media and get that out there. So there's a lot of different things. It just depends on what, the week brings.
So great question, Sid. We're going to bring up a question from Christian as well, but kind of piggybacking on that question. One of the things that we talk to a lot of our college students about is this thing called email, which is a really important two-way street professionally, right? A second thing called a phone call, where people can either put it on speakerphone, but actually using the phone, not texting, not grouping, WhatsApping, whatever that is. Sometimes people do that with many people, and it's called a conference call. Then you've got meetings. So if you looked at your meetings, and then you actually have instances where you're supposed to just sit down and write. So to break down like a week, what percentage is spent email, meeting, phone call, actually writing?
I would say this. Okay, so depending on if there's like a major event coming up, there's a lot more meetings. Like coming into W All-Star, there were like nonstop meetings, I would say, because you're getting ready for the event side, and comms is kind of part of everything. It's like making sure it's like, okay, will media have access to this? Where is the press conference going to be? What room is this in? Like, there's just so many different like moving factors that happen around a major event. So that's definitely meeting heavy. After those events, it's not as meeting heavy. I'm like going to look at my calendar real quick, because I'm like, what is coming up on my calendar? We have, let's see, just weekly updates a lot. Like we have like a weekly marketing update from the WNBA. So that's like a meeting I'm in, and not necessarily that I need to contribute to it, but just like being aware of what's going on. We have our weekly PR meetings for the WNBA. So a lot of that is just like checking in, making sure everything's going well. And so that kind of, those meetings eliminate the need for like calls or just like one-offs. But if there's something urgent that comes up, obviously people like tend to call. but emails definitely are huge. Like there's always emails flying around, but the best days for me are the ones where I really can just sit down and write, and the whole day kind of thing. And sometimes it ends up being that, if I have to write like an op-ed or like a, long form written thing, I do my best work like at night when no one's bothering me, because like my train of thought just needs to continue flowing. So I'll be like sending something at midnight. And it's not because I was like, working all day on it. It was just like, okay, I started at like 8 p.m. because that's the only time that people aren't bothering me, or I don't have meetings. I can just like focus on it. So, and that's not just, this. Don't be afraid. That is not normal. Like not everyone in the sports industry is working 24/7. I'm definitely not working 24/7 either. It's just, there's sometimes that's just like the way that I can work best.
Yeah, and I think kind of there's still that, and what you talked about with Sydney too, in this, and I'm going to ask for some involvement from this. So give me a thumbs up if you love working on group projects in school. We got one.
Okay.
Two.
Got a few coming in.
I think these people are lying, or it's the same person pressing it a bunch. In my experience teaching, even my experience as a student, because I was a student once, group projects are a pain in the butt. How do I get all these people to do this? They don't want to do that. What's my role? Blah, 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 blah. Like,
yeah.
When you're explaining what you do, it sounds like a really big group project all the time.
You know what's funny though? Everyone told me about that, and I didn't think about it until just now. Everyone's like, oh, work is just literally a big group project, but it's really not, because you have a leader. That was the biggest thing for me in school, because I always wanted to be the one who would like step up and be like, tell people to do that. But then I was like, I don't want to be bossy, so I don't want to do that. But like, if you don't have a leader, then it's hard to get things done. But when you're working on a project, like one of the things that I help work on, which is more of a broad overall league thing, is our NBA All-Star Tech Summit. And we have panels, and it's like basically our huge event, like in sports related and tech and all this kind of stuff. But we bring together a ton of influential speakers, have all the best minds in the sports industry basically in one room. And we put on a program for them. And so I'm part of the planning committee for that. And we have someone who we report up to, and she runs the meetings, and, then we delegate, and we, are able to get things done. And we have weekly calls for that as well. So that, to me is better, because we know the leadership structure, and it's not just like us trying to figure it out, because I still think at the end of the day, there are some times where it's just like people working with each other, where it seems like a group project type thing. And you're like, okay, but who's taking the lead here? Who's doing this first? So I would say it's like important to be able to know how to, manage those group projects. There's plenty of group projects in college, but don't be afraid that, that's going to be your entire life, because it won't be.
But so much of your job and many jobs is that collaborative aspect, which
definitely
we're talking about too. Like it's not like school where you just go and sit down and do your grade and you're done. It's about working with other people, as you identified.
Right.
As we start to wind down, I wanted to bring our buddy Christian up here, and he had asked a question related to the do's and don'ts of using social media professionally. And I think Christian's a good guinea pig for this too, because Christian's just graduated, and he's kind of in between looking for roles as well. And I know he's used social media himself for productive purposes, but maybe like one do and one don't, Tish. And then Christian, maybe you could also share what you learned in trying to build your brand and get a job.
Cool. Yeah. Do's and don'ts. I mean, I think it's so easy to first point out the don'ts. But the don'ts to me also kind of feel like common sense in a way. I mean, if you wouldn't say something out loud like the things that you shouldn't say out loud to people are also things that you shouldn't put on social media, derogatory comments, mean things, anything that is just like, and I think that honestly, Gen Z is so good about it. Like people are getting called out left and right for things that they've either said in the past or say actively. It's like, you can't say that. And I love that, because it really is teaching everyone at a younger age what is appropriate to say and how we should communicate with each other. And that, from there, I think that's going to get people out of a lot of trouble down the line, because we're learning what is appropriate. And, you see it all the time. I mean, someone actually who went to my high school is on The Bachelorette right now, and they found his tweets from, when he was in high school, and he said some offhanded things. And it's just like crazy that you can, like, when I was growing up, like, we really didn't think about the ramifications from our tweets and what we said online and how they can be found years later. There's literally 10 years later at least, and it's still coming up. And so that kind of thing is just like, you really should think before you put anything online. And again, just being a good person, offline, it really like relates to being a good person online. So definitely that's a big don't. And then for do, again, interact with people in a positive way, follow people who uplift you, who inspire you. I think that if you looked at my feeds for Twitter, TikTok, anything, like I am definitely on the body positivity movement. I'm on the mental health movement. I'm on all these different things that really make me feel better rather than tear me down. I think it's so easy to interact with social media in a way that makes us feel bad about ourselves, but that's not how it should be. It should always be that you're interacting with the people who make you want to be better rather than make you feel bad about who you are.
Great answer. Christian, do you want to share a bit about what you've learned as a college student and now as a soon-to-be industry pro with respect to the do's and don'ts of social media?
Yeah, so thank you for sharing, Tish. I think something that I learned, especially early, is like how you talked about, Tish, earlier about how you had a brand before you represented one of the biggest brands in the world. Is like you got to look at yourself as a brand, and what you put that out there is really important. You don't want to be like looked at in a negative light. And I feel like a lot of times like social media now is our first impression of people. And so if you're putting out a bad light, you're always going to be looked at in a bad light. But if you want to be seen as good and productive and like other people aspire to be, then essentially want to be that on social media as well. So something I learned is like just using LinkedIn. Like I was using LinkedIn to just share my experiences, share with people, like the people who I was connected with, to like show them what I was doing, whether it was volunteering or we're helping out with sports biz camps and just showing them who you are outside of, I guess, the everyday. I mean, different platforms are for different things. So like Snapchat is completely different from LinkedIn, but obviously like using all of them to create a positive image for yourself.
And Christian, have you had like positive yields from that? The fact that how have you been using LinkedIn as it pertains to your professional career?
Yeah, so a couple of times I actually had people I was interviewing with, or like just industry pros, just keeping them in the loop. It helped out a lot because like they see that stuff and they really like take it. He's a good person. He volunteers, or whatever the case may be. How you're using it is like, or you're congratulating people on job offerings or whatever the case may be. Like it really does help a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and then as we begin to wind down, thank you, Christian, for coming up to the stage. I think one of the things I love about what Christian's social media activity is he's like the biggest cheerleader for the people that he are in his network, and you talked about that, Tish. Like we're competing, but like be good to your peers, compete appropriately, and when your peers do well, like definitely like, give them some love. And Christian always does that. Half of my feed is Christian congratulating someone.
I'm definitely the same way. I love it. And I mean, a lot of the people that I'm really good friends with at the NBA now, we all are the kind of people who like build each other up and aren't like jealous of what the other people are, the opportunities that they're getting. It's like my friend got to go to Rwanda and be part of Basketball Africa League's first season. And like so many people like are jealous of that, of being able to like do this amazing opportunity. But I was like, yes, you go, you get that opportunity. And then she came back and got a promotion. And I was like, amazing. Like, because good things happen when you put out positivity into the world, the positive things will come back. And so like that to me is just like a no-brainer. Just be good and, congratulate others for the successes that they've had.
And kind of to close the loop on how we can use what's at our fingertips, like, Tish, you told a cautionary tale about someone posting something in the past that got unearthed and it was a bad look. Well, there's a positive side to that too. If people see you posting good content, people see you making contributions to the community, people see you being a cheerleader, all those things people can see Christian doing, and they're like, that's a good teammate. That's someone I want to hire. That's someone I want to be around. And clearly that's going to work for him, and it's clearly working for you. So if there's a risk associated, there's also opportunity associated with doing it in a positive manner, which is why the sports world is your oyster. So
yes.
Full circle. Tish, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really a pleasure. Like I said, Tish became a new friend, right? We didn't know her prior to what she had done in giving back, but because of that, she's here today, and I thought you did an amazing job, Tish. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you so much again, everyone, for who's here today. I hope that you took away some meaningful things, and just remember, be a good person, do good things, and take advantage of everything at your disposal. And you guys got this.
Thank you so much, Tish. So We're going to break team for the next 10 minutes. So Tish, we're going into those pathway roundtables that we talked about before, of which sports communications, content, PR is one of them. So that's right up your alley, Tish. I'd be remiss if I didn't note one thing. For those of you that are on in the Air Meet today from Charlotte, we actually have an in-person camp, Tish. We're doing a 2-day program where students can go learn about career opportunities in motorsports with NASCAR, the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and 2311 Racing. And then we're doing a separate day at a minor league baseball stadium in Charlotte. So those in-person camps are actually next Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay.
We have a few spots remaining. So 50 students get to go to these programs, totally fully funded. So if you're in Charlotte and you're on here and you didn't know about that, shoot Lana a direct message. Registration is over at 5 p.m. today. We've got about 10 spots left. So take advantage of that opportunity. If you remember, Tish's role at the NBA happened because she showed up to a WISE event, right? And she put herself in that position. So that was kind of very serendipitous for us that we could push that based upon your story. Thank you very much, Tish. For everyone else, we'll see you at the roundtable that you decide to pick at 1:10 p.m. for our Pathway Roundtable discussion. Let's give one more round of applause for Tish.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks, guys.